Hello and welcome back to the Obojima Podcast. I am Jeremiah, and I am one of the writers and creative director for Obojima, and you are catching me writing solo for this podcast episode as we are going to jump into monster stat blocks. Last week on our solo adventure, I worked through the Dragon Shepherd, the Sheep Dragon Shepherd monk subclass, and this time around I'm going to be jumping into monsters. I've got a whole list of different creatures here, things that are going to make it into the book, and I'm going to show you my process of diving into how I would create a monster and kind of go from there. So this is, I believe, our last week of solo podcasts, at least for now, and then after that we'll be back to our group podcasts where we do more writing and other things like that. But until then, here we go. The creature we're going to start with is the Soda Slime, which is a community-driven creature, if I remember correctly. And so one of the things I'm going to do is, based off of where I want this creature to land, I'm going to utilize an existing stat block as like a jumping off point. So Tiny Ooze, which works pretty darn close, is a CR 1/2, which I think is a perfect spot for this Soda Slime, right? It's something that's a little challenging, but not too easy. And you can throw in a low-level adventure or a handful in a higher level. And so with that, we have this base stat block here. And you kind of see I've broken it out into the standards here with the standard abilities and then their actions below. And so we're going to start at the top and kind of talk about the choices we're making here and some of the things like that. So the first thing I actually like to do before I get into armor class and hit points is I like to talk and I like to work on their stat blocks. I think their stat blocks obviously affect a bunch of other things, but it's a good place to start. And you can see here, this creature's stat blocks are fairly low. And that's also due to the fact that they have a ton of condition immunities, damage resistances, and other special abilities, right? So, when building a creature, the more unique abilities and or damage resistance and immunities and things like that, or skills, the less, the lower their stats might be or their health, right? It's a give and take. So you don't want you can have a creature that has a ton of resistances and immunities, as well as a bunch of special abilities and cool actions that they can take. But if you don't have them, if you don't knock them down in a different area or aspect of the creature, they are going to just be a significantly higher CR rating. And so I chose the Soda Slime because I chose the Tiny Ooze as our starting point. One, because I like its challenge rating, but two, because I think it has more unique abilities, and that's kind of what I want this Soda Slime to sit in, right? I want it to have a handful of unique abilities. And so looking at this stat block here, I think this is all fairly close already. Another great reason to start here. I don't think our Soda Slime has a 12 in strength, so I'm going to drop that down. I actually think the Soda Slime having something closer to like an 8 makes more sense, right? That's a -1, right? It's probably difficult to deal with, but I don't think it's going to be winning any grappling competitions. That being said, I also think moving up the Soda Slime's dexterity makes a lot of sense. So bringing those both up to a -1, I think is just the better move here. All right. And then in their constitution, the Tiny Ooze has a very high constitution. And I don't know if I necessarily agree with that for our Soda Slime. I think our Soda Slime might have a 12. I think that feels closer to what this creature, feels more true to this creature, right? Again, these stat blocks are not going to be very high. I'm just going to do some minor adjustments here. I think our Soda Slime is probably more closer to like a cat's intelligence, right? So I believe that's a -4 here. Wisdom and charisma being in these spots, I think, is totally fine. So you can, right off the bat, you can see there's a handful of these abilities here. Almost all of them are negative, par from the Constitution. Now that we have those, we're going to jump into the hit points here. So with the hit points, normally slimes... Tiny Ooze might just be the level here. I actually don't know what this base stat block was that I grabbed here, because it's certainly not Tiny Ooze. That's just the monster size. But you can tell here by the fact that it says 3d8 that this was at one point in time a medium creature. So when building out a creature based off of their size, it is going to determine their hit die. So a tiny creature should be utilizing d4s. A medium creature... I think tiny and small use D4. Maybe small uses D6. Medium creature uses a D8. I know that. And then large creature uses a D10. And then huge and above use a D12 for their hit die. And so this tiny creature is going to use 3D4. And now we're going to try to get this to a hit point maximum that I think makes sense. Now, I don't think a hit point of 22 is necessarily where we want to be. I think we probably want it a little bit higher. Another thing you have to take in consideration is for every die that we add in here. So let's say we do 8d4. This number needs to reflect how many dice we have. So if we have a +1 Constitution, we'd get +1 for each die. So this would be an 8. If we did 8d4 on an average of 2.5 per dice, that would be... let's see, that'd be 20, right? 8 times 2.5 is 8, 16. Yeah, it'd be 20 plus 8. So this would bring this creature's hit points to 28. Now, that's not exactly what I want. I actually think dropping this down by a couple here will bring it closer to what we're looking for. So this would bring it to... 6 times 12, 3, 15, 21. That'd be 21. I think maybe dropping it down one more. That rough math definitely made more sense in my head. Right, so that would bring us down another 1 plus 2.5. So that would bring us to 18. Perfect. Hopefully you're seeing on the screen all of this stuff, because obviously I'm verbal. That was verbal garbage there. But the point I'm making is I've switched the dice number to 5, so it's 5d4. Its Constitution is +1, so 5d4 +1 on an average of 2.5 for the dice. That brings it out to 12.5 plus 5 is 17. I rounded up to 18, and that's where we're at with the hit points. Now jumping into the armor class. I know this is very arbitrary when it comes to this. It's called natural armor, and you can kind of pick and choose. I think there is a cap certain creatures can have, but I think that's broken. Based, on their challenge rating, there's certain heights of their armor class. But I think that's broken on a regular basis. That was one of the issues that Wizards of the Coast, there's not a lot of available information. There is available information for building out custom monsters, but that seems to be inconsistent, and I think they're updating that as they bring out the new system. But as it goes right now, we're kind of workshopping this based off of other past information and other creatures. That's one of the reasons that I bring a creature in to start with, is so I can kind of have a baseline to where to jump off. I think having the armor class be a 10 here makes sense. I think it's kind of funny, right? The slimes have a can armor, so it's just a fun little thing there. Or maybe not even natural armor. Maybe I can just say can armor as a fun joke there. Sweet. So we have that. The speed of 10 and the climb of 10, I think, are perfect, right? These are tiny creatures. They don't move very fast. I don't want to change that too much. When it comes into skill proficiencies, you can kind of change and give them, again, it's just like damage resistances and immunities. You can alter and shift these because they have fairly low stats. I think I do want to give them a handful of skill proficiencies so they have bonuses in certain things. I think stealth, I don't know, I deleted that. I think stealth is actually a great skill proficiency for them to have. Now they have a -1, but if I give them a proficiency, which is +2, this would actually come out to a 1. I think because they're the shape of a can, it makes sense for them to be better at hiding. So I'm going to swap this to actually a +3, which means that they have expertise in the skill set. That means that they have double their proficiency, which brings it up to a +4, -1 for their dexterity, and now we have a +3. I think the things that they will have, perception, and I'm not sure that there's another skill proficiency I'd want to give them, right? None of the intellectual ones, and it doesn't make sense to give them athletics, and they're not very perceptive, right? They're slimes without eyes. So I think a stealth of +3 is pretty much where we want to end here. So for damage and resistances, now you don't have to, the creatures don't have to have any of these. There's a handful of these things that I think are true. I don't think charmed. I think it's interesting that you can charm a slime if you want to. I think deafened and blinded makes sense because they have no ears or eyes. Exhaustion doesn't make sense as well, maybe it does. It's a slime here, right? Frightened, I don't think is a proficiency or a immunity they should have. And so getting rid of these things here, I do agree blinded, deafened, exhaustion, and prone are all great immunities for them to have. Resistances to these, I don't think that makes sense. They're, magically liquefied and animated, soda beverage. So why would they have resistance to acid and cold and fire? So I'm going to get rid of all of these. I don't think that's something that's necessary. Sense for blind sight, I think that's just a standard for most oozes who don't have eyes. They tend to have blind sight in some capacity. And blind beyond that radius is true for most of them. Everything else here, I think, is going to stay exactly the same. They're a magically animated creature, so languages are fine. This all stays the same. If they're going to be a challenge rating, this will always stay the same. They'll have 100 XP, and their proficiency bonus is +2 at this moment. Perfect. And so now we kind of have, let me get rid of this. Now we have this base creature with the core stat blocks above here. Now there's other things we could add into this, like damage vulnerabilities, like if we wanted to make the slime vulnerable to a certain type of damage, which I don't think we need to, but it is a possibility if we wanted to. And so with that being said, let's move on to some of these core abilities now. So we have false appearance while the ooze remains motionless. These are some of these other things. And I think it's good to look at these as like a core for what some of these slimes have. It's an oily pool. I think this false appearance is a great ability to have, especially because the slime mimics and looks like a can of soda. And it lives inside of a can of soda. So if it's standing still, it could look like a can of soda. That being said, this false appearance text here is out of date. So we'll have to alter that. And then the slime gets this corroded metal ability and also this ability to move through spaces as narrow as an inch without squeezing. Now, assuming that the slime kind of stays within one of their cans, kind of like a hermit shell, hermit crab and its shell, I'm going to get rid of Amorphous. Well, maybe I'll leave Amorphous. It could probably leave its can and squeeze through these things, but no, we'll get rid of Amorphous. Let's just say that it always wants to stay with this can. We want to differentiate this creature from other slimes, so this is a good way to do it anyways. Perfect. And then for the corroded, this is some special ability that gives, a cumulative -1 penalties to damage rolls as they kind of destroy your weapon, if I remember correctly. And that's just not what our slime does. So instead, we're going to get rid of that. And we're going to start here. This is a pseudopod attack. And this also has their, specialty damage type thing here. And we're going to get rid of all of this. And this is now the core of this damaging ability, right? We can kind of see what this looks like. Now, this is now not a great plus to hit. This is technically a plus 1 to hit because it has, -1 to strength and -1 to dex. And that's one of the reasons that they did this. So maybe that's something we switch here, actually. Maybe we give this a core dex of... maybe we give it a core dex of 12, right? That's not necessarily, they're a little more nimble in this regard, but what that's going to do is give us an actual useful bonus here of +3 for the attack. So basing that off of that, it's also going to affect our skill proficiency that we just added. Okay, so the pseudopod will switch this to a different title of some sort. Let's see. We'll just say... let's just say... let's just give it a smack ability right now. That's one of the core titles we're giving for weapons here. And we'll come back to altering that in a second. So now let's build out some of these non-action abilities. We saw that there were 2 non-action abilities for the previous creature. We don't necessarily need to keep to that. Really, this is kind of where it turns more into jazz and less like math here, where we're just kind of going to make a cool ability and then kind of see where it fits power-wise into the creature. If it's more flavor, if it's more, if it has a lot of mechanical crunch to it, it will affect the way we make other abilities here. And so I would say the last ability was very mechanical, right? It was very, very, it had a lasting negative effect. And it's one of those abilities where if it gets out of hand, it can really hurt the chances of a low-level creature from doing well because it stacks this -1 attack ability or, -1 to a creature's attack. Or maybe it's damage. I can't remember. And so for us, let's think about what a slime would actually do. Oh, hold on. I know exactly who we should ask. Ghost Adam is with us. Adam, what do you think a cool ability for this slime would be?
Yes.
I'm trying to compose myself here, Adam. That's such a good idea. I'll just type that right here. Yes, we'll get back to that. Any other things?
And you like snap kick somebody and they go shooting into the falls and like, ah!
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, Adam, that's actually an ability. Holy crap. Okay, a snap kick. I don't know. It's not super flavorful, but I'll keep it on the back end. But maybe there's something interesting there with like a stretchy, like the slime's very, very stretchy. Maybe it has that's it. Maybe it has like a tripping effect. That's kind of interesting, right? Like it can slime its way, like it can stick part of itself onto like a portion of wall and almost act like a tripwire. I don't hate that. I don't know if it's an action. Maybe it's a reaction, right? So we'll build a new section down here for reactions. I'm going to make this bold that, make that a reaction bold. Okay. And then down here, I'm just going to say, sticky, trip reaction. right? That's kind of fun. But going back over here, so what's like a core ability that a soda slime might have? We could do like a carbonation style action, like it fizzes up. I'm trying to think of like characteristics of a soda, and like what would make a soda hard to fight. I'm trying to think of soda based attack abilities, and I'm telling you it's not the easiest thing. But there is something that's kind of interesting about like it occupying the same space as you and like getting all over you, and not necessarily like burning you away like acid, but making it hard for you to move as like you become sticky, and like or maybe it's like binding and holding you apart. So let's say like there's this core ability where it can occupy the same space as a creature. And I'm just gonna. These are just This is a vague ability here, so I'm not gonna put in a lot of effort to like hone in and finalize this exact feature here, but rather get like the core understanding of how it works. So it can occupy the same space as a creature, while in the same space, the creature. The creature has disadvantage on attack rolls and dexterity checks. Oh, that's not how you spell dexterity. Dexterity checks. That's kind of interesting. So then maybe for a creature to leave the soda slime space, they must first succeed on a DC. So the DC, I think, at this level is 10. DC 10 strength saving throw. Or no, ability. What is it? It's a athletics check. DC 10 athletics check. What am I doing? Okay, cool. I like that. Like the let's just call this sticky nature as like a placeholder title here, right? That's not a terrible core ability, right? And so I'm not putting it in the action section because it's not an action. It's just something that naturally occurs. It's something that the soda slime can do. Another interesting thing is maybe wherever. We'll get rid of yes. I'm sorry, Adam. I've sat on it. I don't think yes is a good core ability. Another fun thing that could happen here. Oh, actually, yeah. What if this is kind of sad a little bit, but what if they have like a death thrall? You know what word I'm trying to say. As they're dying, something occurs. So what if like like when you shake up a soda and it explodes everywhere, or you leave a soda out in the sun and it pops? What if they pop at the end and they deal damage to everyone in an area when you hit them? So it's almost like you don't want to be adjacent to them when you kill a soda slime. So, oh my gosh, and it's called Soda Pop. That's the name of the ability. God, I'm good at my job. Adam, what do you think?
And you hear this sound, it goes.
I'm so good at pressing these buttons. That's crazy. These are all not labeled for me, just to let everyone know. I'm just guessing as to what these are. That's crazy. Yeah, good, exactly, and it makes that noise when they do that, Adam. I'm proud of you. Okay, Soda Pop. When a soda slime drops to 0 hit point, 0 calories, as it autocorrects on Google, 0 hit points, when a soda slime drops to 0 hit points, all creatures within let's just say 5 foot, 10 foot radius of the soda slime must succeed on a DC 10 dexterity saving throw or suffer. Nope, suffer's not the right word. Or take. I always say suffer, but I know that's not true. Or take. And let's see here. I'm going to say for damage wise here, a death ability at this level, we don't want it too high. You assume that there might be 1 or 2 of these thrown in there if they both pop. I'm going to say a D10 plus 1, right? Because this is going to affect a lot of people. 1d10 plus 1. And then what type of damage is this? What type of damage is soda? Life's big questions. I'm going to say I'm just going to say the old classic force damage, right? Force damage is essentially just magic damage, right? It's like the core ability of magic. So I'm going to say force damage because sodas don't have like a elemental type connected to them or anything like that. Perfect. All right. So I like this, right? I like the 3 abilities here: soda pop, sticky nature, false appearance. These are all interesting. Sticky nature, I still need to, both soda pop and sticky nature, I need to alter to make better. Smack is kind of, and then we have this sticky trip reaction, which I still like. So let's say, let's call it sticky tendril, right? When a creature, so when you're doing a reaction ability, you want to say the inflicting, or not the inflicting, but the inciting act first. When a creature, actually, you know what we could do? We could say in place of an attack of opportunity, the soda slime can cause a creature to make a dexterity saving throw, right? That has to be capitalized. Or or fall prone. Cool. And I'm sure I'll fix that later too. I'm not going to do like as it was very clear to me last time I did this, it's just super difficult for me to try to come up with the actual wording on camera. The reality is I sit and fiddle with these for way too long, going back and forth, trying to figure out the right wording. And then even still, the wording's wrong. And then my mechanical editor comes in and he goes, this is significantly more standard for what D&D would state or utilize. And so really on my end, it's about like getting the flavor and making sure that these feel right. And I think these all feel right? We're kind of leaning into this like the nature of a soda can, and that's with the soda pop and the sticky nature. For false appearance, I can say this. Let's see. I know back here, the Watchwood tree, which is a different creature that I've already made, has a false appearance as well. And I'm going to steal false appearance from that and bring it over to the soda slime and replace the soda slime's false appearance, because there's an updated version for false appearance. So let's just replace some words here. So in the new version of false appearance, this is how it is worded. If the soda slime is motionless at the start of combat, it has advantage on its initiative roll. Moreover, if a creature hasn't observed the watchwood, well, let me get rid of that, the soda slime, move or act, that creature must succeed a DC 18 intelligence investigation check to discern the watchwood tree. Again, I have to replace that. I just keep on reading the wrong creature. That the soda slime isn't an ordinary tree. So we're going to say is an ordinary soda can. Perfect. So rereading that, if the soda slime is motionless at the start of combat, has advantage on initiative rolls. Moreover, if a creature hasn't observed the soda slime, move or act, that creature must succeed a DC 18 intelligence investigation check to discern that the soda slime isn't an ordinary soda can. Now, this DC is incredibly high, but that seems to be the standard on false appearance. So false appearance tends to use DC 18 across the board for pretty much everything. And so, yeah, that is where I'm gonna end with this on this creature here. So I'm gonna see if I can jump into another low-hanging fruit on the slimes here, or on the creatures here, and kind of go from this. Now, the other thing I have to do is I have to build out some lore and some other interesting things with soda slimes, and that's all text that I have to write later down the line. I won't do that here on camera, mostly because again, just so much reiteration, trying to come up with the lore. And I think there's a little bit that was generated earlier. But that being said, I'm really happy with where this creature is going here. So let's see if there is another creature that's low-hanging fruit for us to jump on. I know I only have a little bit left before I've hit my time. My puck of time tells me to run away. The acorn crab. All right. So this is going to be the same type of situation here. I've already thrown in the gargoyle stats here for the acorn crab as a good starting off point for us to utilize. And yeah, we can kind of go from here. Already you can tell from these gargoyle stats that it is much more combat heavy, right? It has higher statistics here. It has way more resistances, but there's not a lot of unique abilities, which I tend to not like, right? Whenever I come up with a creature, I think the core of what makes a combat interesting is the unique ability a creature has access to. And so if a creature can only slash and bite and claw, then that creature tends to be pretty boring. So with this, we're going to make some alterations to try to stay within the challenge rating, but also come up with some cool ideas. Right off the bat, I don't think this is false appearance. I don't think anyone's getting fooled that this thing's actually an acorn. This thing is huge. So we can get rid of this here and let's jump into it. Actually, let's go back to the soda slime here. And last thing before we jump away is talk about unaligned. Yep, that's perfect. Soda slime is unaligned. That's great. All right, so with the acorn crab, we can jump into some of these statistics. Now, I think strength, dex, con, these are all not terrible here. I don't think the acorn crab is as wise as the gargoyle, so we're going to make some changes. I'm going to switch this to an 8, which gives us a -1. Charisma is probably fairly similar. I'm going to do some -3, getting some alterations here. I think the acorn crab is maybe a little more dexterous. Dropping it up to a 13 here. And then going with the strength score. Yeah, I think the acorn crab's a little stronger. Thinking about the core abilities of this acorn crab, really what it comes down to is, when I imagine this thing moving around. I imagine it kind of like this impenetrable nut that goes around and terrorizes the wandering forest. And so I want its core abilities, like its strength, dex, and con, to be fairly high, while its intellectual abilities are significantly weaker. And I think this spread here does a fairly good job. We might play around with that, but yeah. So now let's go into con, right? So it's a medium creature. We're going to stay the same. This is a monstrosity. Yeah, close enough. So its hit points here going to be a D8 because it's a medium creature. And this is going to stay the same here. 52. I actually think this creature is significantly, not significantly higher, but a little bit higher. So I think I'm going to switch this to 9. So 9d8 would bring another 9, and then there's 6 here. So 15. 15 would bring this to a 67. So 67 in the hit points here, right? So that is 9d8 on an average of 4.5 plus 27 from the plus 3 con for each die here equals 67 probably. You can tell me if I'm wrong here. And I think this creature is going to have a speed of 30 feet. These are now capitalized, so we'll move that up. It's not fly anymore though, so we're going to give it a climb speed of 30, I think. What am I saying? Climb 30. That's how they do it. And there we go. Okay, perfect. And damage resistances. I don't think I'm going to give it this kind of resistance to these abilities, to the non-magicals. It's just a standard beast. Damage immunities. I also don't see this creature necessarily having any immunities per se. And condition immunities, none of those either. All right. Language probably doesn't speak anything. It's just a standard creature. Proficiency bonus. All right. But we can give it some skills if we want to. So for its skills, I think athletics make the most sense. Right, let's give it that. That'd be a 5 if it has standard proficiency. So athletics plus 5. I also feel like it probably has a perception bonus here, right? So the way I imagine these creatures, and let's give it expertise so it has a real bonus. The way I imagine these creatures is they'd sit in these high positions in the treetops in the wandering forest. And then as creatures get lost in there, they would drop from the top and smack down onto them. So if they're high up in the canopy of the trees, they probably have fairly good perception to view down. And so with that, this is kind of this core section here. And I'm going to rush through this last part. We have the core abilities. We have the skills. We have the abilities and the armor. I think I'm going to boast up this armor to a 16. I know it's only a challenge rating 2, but again, they have a pretty hard exterior. All right, so now getting into this, I know we got rid of the false appearance. So let's say we have a standard, let's see. We want a standard ability up here. I don't hate the multi-attack, right? At this level, you probably want this thing to have a multi-attack. Right, so we'll do that, makes 2 attacks, and then we'll swap these words out for something else. We'll highlight them for now. So I think the Acorn Crab probably has a pinch ability, so we're going to switch this core bite into a pinch. And for the claws... For the claws, I'm going to switch this claw ability to a slam, right? And we'll get rid of this. We'll say it makes 2 attacks with its pinch, right? So now we're saying this crab makes 2 attacks, both with its pinch, and then it has this slam ability, which we'll alter later, and we'll give it a different way to access the slam ability through dropping from the trees. But looking at this, +4 to hit, which is incorrect right now. It's a +5, so we'll look at that. 1 target, 1d6 plus 3. This feels not amazing. I think I'm going to increase the dice here to a d8. That'll bring it up to... Yeah, that'll bring it up to a 7 for the piercing damage. So on average, 7. I feel like that's a little bit closer. I think they might have decreased the damage of the previous creature due to the fact that it had so many resistances, right? It was just going to last a little bit longer. Okay. And then with the slam, I think the slam is interesting, right? It's +5 to hit as well. And I think what we could do is reach 5 target. Okay. Hit. We're going to keep it at this. We're going to keep it at a d6 because I think bludgeoning damage is better here. Bludgeoning damage. And then we're going to do this. We're going to do plus 1d6 additional damage for every 10 feet the acorn crab drops. So yeah, we're doing the prerequisite here that the crab has to drop from the heights, and we'll put somewhere else that the crab doesn't suffer damage when this happens. So now the next thing that I think I want this crab to be able to do is, I want some sort of standard ability that applies to the crab's baseline, something it doesn't have to think about. Maybe not an action, maybe it is an action, but what would this thing be doing here? We'll call this ability Great Heights. When an acorn crab drops from higher levels, it can take the slam attack as part of its movement. When it uses the slam attack, it suffers no falling damage. Okay, so that's pretty good. I like that. So the core ability here for this creature is that it can drop from the top. As part of its movement while falling, it can take the slam attack. So it probably only gets us off once. And when it uses the slam attack, it suffers no damage. That's pretty good. I like that, right? That sets up this kind of interesting fall from the sky type situation. I don't hate the concept of it being able to do something else once it's on the ground. Maybe like maybe something noise-wise. Maybe you can do some hissing. I know crabs have this standard crabs have this ability to jet through the water. I'm trying to figure out how they might be able to do something like that, like scuttle around. I know they can hiss too. Ooh. Maybe they can slam the trees and cause other things to fall from the tops of the trees. But that seems like an environmental thing and very situational. I don't know. I feel like that's maybe a good place to slow down. We kind of have the base core ability. I might add something else in here. Yeah, that's it. You guys get the idea at this point. We went through 2 creatures. You got to see some of my terrible spelling, and it was perfect. I'm actually really happy with where the soda slime and also the acorn crab ended. I think they're both fairly interesting creatures, and I think they have really amazing visual cues. When coming up with monsters, I think, if I can give any advice or give any direction, I think in a good conflict, in a good combat, when you're doing this, if you're building monsters, which I think both of these creatures are a little mindless, so they're not necessarily built amazingly for social encounters. But especially when you're building for combat, the biggest thing I would recommend is thinking about that interesting moment. What's the interesting moment that occurs in that combat? Where if someone's never fought this creature before, right? Because that's the eternal struggle, is to throw new creatures at your players. If they've never fought this creature before, what's the wow moment in that combat when they, even if they only use that ability once, it should feel like that wow moment. And I try to do that in all of my creature designs, is come up with a thing that occurs in the combat that makes the players go whoa, that was really unique or interesting. And even if it's similar to another ability that another creature has, as long as it's flavored well, that's all that really matters, right? The slime tripping someone isn't that unique, but the fact that it's soda and it's sticky and all of this really feels flavorful, the players, I know for a fact, will be excited about that kind of the flavor that comes along with these core abilities. All of that being said, thank you so much for joining me. This was a lot of fun. We'll be doing more of these, I think. I think we're going to try to get more of these. They might be additional episodes. So rather than replacing the core episodes, we might release some of these extra ones. If you want them to be shorter or longer, please let us know in the comments. I'd love to hear that. And also thank you to everyone who said I've got a dad haircut now. I'm really embracing the dad energy for this. So yeah, you used the hashtag Papa. I'm kidding. That's crazy. And then we'll throw in Adam at the end. What does Adam have to say about all this?
Who would be interested in this would be Venomous Rex.
Oh, exciting. Maybe we'll build Venomous Rex on the next one. Thank you so much. And I will catch everyone later. Follow us on all the other places. I don't know. You've seen these podcasts. You know where to go. All right. See you, everyone.